Hello and welcome to Medieval Sleep Stories, where ancient worlds come alive to guide you into peaceful rest. I'm your storyteller for tonight, and I'm here to take you on a journey 600 years into the past, to a time when life moved slowly, when craftsmanship was sacred, and when every day held its own quiet magic. In our medieval world, you'll meet master craftsmen and wise women, gentle monks and skilled artisans, each living their lives with purpose, each finding peace in their daily work, each ready to share their tranquil world with you. Tonight's story will unfold slowly, like a gentle river flowing toward the sea, carrying you deeper into relaxation. With every passing moment, you'll hear the crackle of forge fires, the whisper of silk threads, the soft chant of evening prayers, sounds that have lulled people to sleep for countless generations. So settle in comfortably, let your shoulders drop, soft breathing, and allow yourself to drift backward through time, to a world where rest comes naturally and sleep is a sacred gift. Close your eyes now, and let me tell you a story from the quiet corners of medieval life, where peaceful Reims are waiting just for you. The medieval tapestry weavers, artists of thread and story sleep journeyed day. Picture yourself in the quiet halls of a medieval weaving workshop, where skilled artisans create magnificent tapestries, telling stories in threads of silk and gold, their patient work preserving tales for future generations. In the prosperous city of Bruges in 1389, Master Isabella the weaver oversaw the largest tapestry workshop in Flanders, where dozens of skilled artists worked together, creating wall hangings that would decorate royal halls and tell heroic stories in beautiful colors. Her apprentice Peter, a quiet young man with steady hands, had shown remarkable talent for detailed work, weaving tiny flowers and intricate patterns that seemed to come alive. The candlelight of noble halls, Master Catrian, Isabella's business partner, managed the workshop's relationships with wealthy patrons, traveling to distant courts, negotiating commissions for tapestries that would celebrate weddings and victories, in threads more precious than painted gold. Their looms stretched across the workshop floor, each one holding hundreds of colored threads that weavers manipulated with patient precision, creating pictures that told stories, romance and adventure, in textile art that would last for centuries. Master Isabella had inherited this noble craft from her mother and grandmother, women who had elevated tapestry weaving from simple cloth making to an art form that rivaled the finest paintings and sculptures. The workshop occupied an entire street in Bruges' wealthy merchant quarter, where Flemish weavers had perfected techniques that made their tapestries the most sought-after luxury goods in all of medieval Europe. The first building housed the design studio, where master artists created cartoons, detailed patterns that weavers would follow to transform colored threads into narrative pictures, telling stories of love and heroism. Peter had learned to read these cartoons, understanding how simple lines translated into complex weaving patterns that created the illusion of depth and movement in two-dimensional textile art. Every thread tells part of the story, Isabella explained to new apprentices as they studied a cartoon depicting knights rescuing maidens. We are not just weavers, but storytellers working with silk instead of words. Catrian possessed exceptional skill in the story and negotiating with noble patrons, understanding their desires for tapestries that would display both wealth and sophisticated artistic taste to important visitors. The second building contained preparation workshops where raw silk and wool arrived from distant lands to be sorted and prepared for transformation into storytelling threads of every imaginable color. Young apprentice Marguerite, whose family had sent her from rural Normandy, learned to sort silk threads by quality and thickness, understanding that finest tapestries required the most perfect materials. Silk comes to us from distant China, Isabella told Marguerite as they examined lustrous threads through many dangerous and many trading hands. We must honor its travels by creating something worthy of its beauty. Master Catrian had developed relationships with silk merchants from Venice, ensuring steady supplies of the finest materials, even during political troubles that sometimes disrupted international trade. The third building housed the dyeing workshops, where master colorists transformed plain white threads into rainbow palettes that would become the visual language of tapestry storytelling. Master Godefroy, the dyer, had worked with Isabella for 15 years, understanding exactly which colors each type of story required. Romance tapestries needed soft pastels, while battle scenes needed dulled and dramatic hues. Peter learned the secrets of color mixing, understanding how different dyes created subtle variations that gave tapestries depth and realism, making flat textiles appear three-dimensional and alive. The most precious dyes came from far, distant lands: crimson from cochineal insects in Spain, deep blue from indigo plants in India, purple from murex shells gathered along Mediterranean shores. These exotic dyes cost more than gold, reserved for the most important commissions from kings and emperors who wanted tapestries that displayed their wealth through impossibly beautiful colors. The fourth building contained the main weaving hall, where dozens of looms operated daily, each one creating differing sections of large tapestries that required months or years to complete. Master weavers supervised teams of apprentices, ensuring consistent quality across every inch of fabric as complex stories emerged from the patient interlacing of thousands of colored threads. Isabella moved through the weaving hall like a conductor directing an orchestra, coordinating the work of many skilled hands to create unified artistic masterpieces. Each morning began with prayers as the workshop community asked God's blessing on their work, understanding that they served as instruments for preserving important stories and cultural wisdom. Marguerite led morning prayers, her young voice rising ancient hymns that prepared everyone's hearts for the patient work ahead, creating textiles that would educate and inspire future generations. After prayers came the careful ritual of examining yesterday's work, checking for mistakes or irregularities, ensuring that every section met the workshop's exacting standards before continuing with new weaving. Peter had developed exceptional skill at detecting tiny errors in thread placement or color choice, understanding that small mistakes could ruin entire tapestry sections. Months of careful work. The workshop specialized in different types of tapestries, each requiring unique skills and artistic approaches, from simple decorative patterns to complex narrative scenes that told complete stories. Religious tapestries depicted biblical scenes for cathedral and monastery decoration, requiring deep understanding of Christian symbolism and appropriate color choices for sacred environments. Isabella had created magnificent tapestries for the Cathedral of Saint Bevon, showing scenes from Christ's life with such artistic skill that viewers felt transported into the holy stories themselves. Secular tapestries told romantic stories of knights and ladies, adventures and quests that entertained noble audiences while displaying the patron's wealth and sophisticated taste. The Duke of Burgundy commissioned a series of hunting tapestries showing his favorite pastimes in idealized forest settings where every leaf and flower was woven with perfect detail. Heraldic tapestries displayed family crests and genealogical information, establishing noble lineages through textile art that proclaimed ancestry and political connections. Catrian specialized in heraldic design, understanding the complex rules that governed noble symbols, ensuring that family tapestries correctly represented their patron's social status. The largest commissions came from royal courts, wanting tapestry cycles that filled entire throne rooms with interconnected stories celebrating dynastic achievements and divine approval. The King of France ordered a 12-piece tapestry cycle depicting his victorious battles in threads of gold and silver that would proclaim French glory to visiting ambassadors. This royal commission required Isabella's finest craftsmanship, coordinating dozens of weavers over 3 years of work to create textile art worthy of royal display. Peter supervised the royal project's most detailed sections, weaving individual faces with such skill that nobles could recognize specific knights and courtiers. International commissions began arriving from England and the German states, seeking tapestries with the distinctive quality and artistry that characterized Flemish work. Each completed project enhanced the workshop's growing reputation, leading to more complex commissions and opportunities to create increasingly magnificent textile art. The workshop developed innovations in weaving techniques, experimenting with different thread combinations to create tapestries with unusual texture and visual effects. Isabella invented a new weaving method that produced tapestries with metallic highlights, using threads wrapped in thin gold, creating surfaces that caught light like jeweled paintings. Marguerite's exceptional color sense helped identify optimal thread combinations for different artistic purposes, leading to tapestries with unprecedented subtlety and visual richness. The workshop maintained detailed records of every tapestry created, noting design sources, material costs, and client requirements, creating a library of artistic knowledge. Catrian kept careful accounts, documenting the workshop's business relationships with suppliers and patrons, ensuring profitable operations while maintaining artistic integrity. Master Godefroy recorded dye formulas and colorations, preserving technical knowledge that enabled consistent quality across multiple projects. The workshop became a center for artistic innovation, where traditional techniques merged with new ideas, creating textile that surpassed anything created in previous generations. Young apprentices came from distant regions, seeking to learn Flemish techniques, bringing fresh perspectives that enriched the workshop's artistic vocabulary and methods. Peter began teaching newer apprentices, passing on skills Isabella had taught him, understanding that knowledge must flow from generation to generation to preserve this noble craft. The workshop maintained connections, artists in other media, learning from painters and sculptors whose techniques enhanced tapestry design and execution. Isabella collaborated with illuminated manuscript artists, adapting their visual storytelling methods to textile art, creating tapestries that rivaled the finest books in narrative power. These artistic connections helped refine weaving techniques, applying principles from other arts to achieve more sophisticated visual effects in textile media. The workshop's influence spread through apprentices who established their own weaving operations, carrying Flemish methods to distant regions and new markets. Master Isabella wrote detailed manuals describing tapestry techniques, ensuring that artistic knowledge would survive even if disaster struck the workshop or its craftsmen. Catrian documented business practices and client relationships, creating reference materials that helped future workshop managers maintain profitable and artistic operations. As seasons passed, the workshop established dominance in European tapestry markets, setting standards for quality that other regions struggled to match. Wealthy patrons competed for Isabella's attention, offering higher prices and more prestigious commissions to secure tapestries that would enhance their social status. The workshop expanded to meet demand, adding new looms and work areas while maintaining the high standards that made Flemish tapestries legendary throughout medieval Europe. Despite growing success, Isabella insisted on personal involvement in every tapestry's design, ensuring that artistic quality never suffered for increased production. Evening hours in the workshop were devoted to planning and design, as the artistic family discussed upcoming projects, refined their techniques for future challenges. Marguerite spent evenings studying color relationships and design principles, gradually developing the artistic eye that would make her a master weaver herself. Pete used evening time to experiment with new weaving patterns under Isabella's guidance, gradually mastering techniques that would advance the entire craft. Master Godefroy worked evenings on color experiments, testing new dye combinations that might produce unprecedented visual effects for future artistic projects. The workshop became a cultural center where artists and intellectuals gathered to discuss aesthetic theories and share ideas that influence multiple art forms. Isabella's reputation attracted scholars interested in the relationship between visual art and narrative, leading to collaborations that improved understanding of storytelling through images. These scholarly connections helped refine design techniques, applying literary principles to achieve more effective narrative communication through textile art. The workshop developed new markets among wealthy merchants who wanted tapestries that displayed their prosperity without traditional noble themes, creating new artistic possibilities. Merchant commissions often featured trade and commercial themes, celebrating economic success and international connection through visual narratives of wealth and achievement. These merchant tapestries required different artistic approaches, emphasizing material prosperity and worldly success rather than spiritual or military themes. In winter settled over Bruges, the workshop continued its artistic mission, creating textiles that would preserve cultural stories and values through countless generations of human change. Snow fell gently on workshop roofs, while loom maintained their steady rhythm and craftsmen worked with patient dedication on tapestries that would outlast empires. In the peaceful evening hours, Isabella's family gathered around their hearth, planning future projects and sharing stories of tapestries they had created. Marguerite would describe the unique visual character of each completed tapestry, helping her family understand how their work preserved important cultural narratives. Future generations. The workshop had developed a sophisticated system for managing multiple large projects simultaneously, with different teams working on various sections of complex narrative cycles. Master Isabella created detailed production schedules, coordinating the work of dozens of artisans, ensuring that all sections of multi-panel tapestries would be completed in proper sequence and timing. The most ambitious project ever undertaken by the workshop was a 24-panel cycle depicting the entire Arthurian legend, commissioned by the Duke of Berry for his magnificent castle at Mahon-sur-Yevre. This unprecedented commission required Isabella to invent new organizational methods, managing teams of specialists who focused on different aspects of the complex visual narrative. Peter supervised the team responsible for human figures, ensuring consistent facial features and body proportions across all 24 panels of the epic story cycle. Master Godefroy created special dye batches, ensuring color consistency throughout the multi-year project, so that characters' settings would maintain visual continuity across the entire narrative sequence. Marguerite led the team, specializing in landscape backgrounds, weaving forests and castles with such detailed accuracy that viewers felt transported into the legendary world of King Arthur. The Arthurian cycle required extensive research into medieval literature, as Isabella's team studied multiple versions of the legends to create visual narratives that honored the story's spiritual depth. Catrion traveled to libraries in Paris and Oxford, consulting illuminated manuscripts that contained Arthurian illustrations, gathering visual references for the tapestry designs. The workshop collaborated with scholars from the University of Paris who provided expert knowledge about medieval symbolism, ensuring that the tapestries accurately represented the legend's deeper meanings. Each panel of the Arthurian cycle contained multiple narrative layers, visible stories on the surface, and symbolic meanings that educated viewers about chivalric values and Christian virtues. The first panel depicted Arthur's miraculous birth, with Merlin's magical assistance woven in threads that seemed to shimmer with supernatural light, suggesting the divine origin of royal authority. Subsequent panels followed Arthur's journey from unknown youth to legendary king, each tapestry revealing different aspects of leadership and moral responsibility. The round table panels showed individual knights on their various quests, with each hero representing different virtues that nobles were expected to cultivate. Lancelot's panels explored the tension between earthly love and spiritual duty, weaving this complex theme into visual metaphors that spoke to sophisticated audiences. The Grail quest panels depicted spirit transformation through symbolic imagery that connected Arthurian legend to Christian mysticism and divine grace. The final panels showed Arthur's tragic end and the Round Table's dissolution, reminding viewers even the greatest achievements are temporary in this mortal world. Curating the Arthurian cycle required 4 years of continuous work, with the entire workshop dedicated to this single, unprecedented artistic achievement. During this period, Isabella turned down other major commissions, understanding that the Arthurian project would establish her workshop's reputation for the highest levels of artistic accomplishment. The highest levels of artistic accomplishment. The completed cycle measured over 300 feet when displayed in sequence, covering the entire Great Hall of the Duke's Castle, with continuous narrative imagery. The installation ceremony for the Arthurian tapestries became a major cultural event, attended by nobles from across Europe who came to witness this unprecedented artistic achievement. The Duke of Berry hosted a magnificent feast celebrating the tapestry's completion, where poets and musicians performed Arthurian themes inspired by Isabella's visual interpretations. The success of the Arthurian cycle led to commissions for other legendary cycles as nobles competed to own tapestries that rivaled the Duke's masterpiece. The King of England commissioned a cycle depicting the legends Robin Hood, wanting English heroic stories presented with the same artistic sophistication Isabella had brought to Arthurian themes. This English commission required Isabella to study different literary traditions and cultural values, adapting her artistic methods to serve English rather than French. Aristocratic sensibilities, Peter traveled to England to research Robin Hood legends, consulting with English scholars and visiting Sherwood Forest, understand the geographic settings that would appear in the tapestries. The Robin Hood cycle emphasized different themes than the Arthurian tapestries, focusing on social justice and protection of the poor, rather than court romance and chivalric ideals. These thematic differences required new artistic approaches with earthier color palettes and more realistic character depictions that reflected Robin Hood's connection to common people. Master Troy developed new dye combinations, creating forest greens and earth browns that captured the natural world where Robin Hood's adventures took place. Marguerite supervised the weaving of Sherwood Forest backgrounds, creating woodland scenes so detailed and realistic that viewers could almost hear birds singing in the tapestried trees. The workshop's reputation for creating legendary cycles attracted commissions from Germany for tapestry depicting the Nibelungenlied saga and other Germanic heroic tales. Each new legendary cycle required extensive cultural research as Isabella's team worked to understand different literary traditions and their underlying value systems. The workshop developed expertise in adapting stories from various cultural backgrounds into visual narratives that preserved their essential character while appealing to international audiences. Isabella established relationships with universities and libraries across Europe, creating a network of scholarly advisors who provided expert knowledge for literary tapestry projects. The workshop's library grew to include manuscripts in multiple languages containing the source materials for various legendary cycles commissioned by different patrons. Catrion became expert in managing international projects, coordinating with foreign patrons, and understanding their specific cultural requirements and preferences. The workshop developed standardized procedures for researching new legendary cycles, ensuring consistent quality across projects based on different cultural traditions. These procedures included literary analysis phases, visual design development, patron consultation periods, and staged approval processes that guaranteed client satisfaction. The workshop's success with legendary tapestries, influenced other textile centers across Europe, raising artistic standards throughout the medieval weaving industry. Isabella's innovations in narrative tapestry design were copied by workshops in Paris and London, spreading Flemish artistic influence throughout European textile production. The workshop began training master weavers from other regions who returned home with advanced techniques that elevated tapestry quality in their own territories. These international connections created a network of affiliated workshops that maintained Isabella's standards while adapting her methods to different regional markets. The workshop's influence extended beyond textile arts, inspiring painters and manuscript illuminators who adopted narrative techniques first developed for tapestry design. Isabella collaborated with architects, planning tapestry installations that integrated with building design, creating unified artistic environments in castles and palaces. These architectural collaborations led to innovations in tapestry hanging systems and display methods that enhanced the visual impact of large narrative cycles. The workshop developed specialized tools for measuring and planning tapestry installations, ensuring perfect fit within architectural spaces designed for specific narrative displays. Master Isabella wrote treatises on tapestry design principles, sharing her knowledge of visual storytelling through textile arts with future generations of artists. These treatises covered topics ranging from color theory to narrative structure, providing comprehensive guides for artists working in various visual media. The workshop's educational influence extended to noble courts, where Isabella taught artistic appreciation, helping patrons understand the sophisticated techniques underlying tapestry creation. These educational activities raised the cultural status of tapestry arts from mere decoration to sophisticated narrative medium, worthy of serious artistic consideration. The workshop developed relationships with music composers who created musical settings for the stories depicted in major tapestry cycles. These musical collaborations enhanced the cultural impact of legendary tapestries, creating multimedia artistic experiences that engaged multiple senses simultaneously. Court entertainments often featured simultaneous presentation of tapestries and related musical performances, creating immersive cultural experiences, transported audiences into legendary worlds. The workshop's innovations in combining different art forms influenced the development of court spectacles and theatrical presentations throughout medieval Europe. Isabella's artistic vision had transformed tapestry weaving from craft production into sophisticated art form that rivaled painting and sculpture in cultural importance. The workshop's achievements established new standards for artistic ambition, inspiring creative workers in many different media to pursue higher levels of excellence. As autumn arrived in Bruges, the workshop reflected on years of artistic achievement, understanding that their work had changed medieval culture's understanding of textile arts. The changing seasons brought new commissions and challenges, but also the satisfaction of knowing that their tapestries would preserve important stories for countless future generations. In the golden evening light that streamed through workshop windows, Isabella and her artistic family continued their patient work, weaving threads of silk and gold into narratives that would outlast kingdom. The medieval world of tapestry weaving continues to inspire us today, reminding us that artistic dedication and collaborative effort can create beauty that transcends the boundaries of time. Let these images of artistic craftsmanship carry you toward peaceful rest, imagining the gentle sounds of looms creating stories in threads of every color across quiet workshop floors. Sleep peacefully now, like artisans in workshops long ago, knowing that patient work and collaborative effort can create lasting beauty that serves and inspires others. The medieval candle makers, keepers of sacred light, sleep journey. Take yourself in the gentle warmth of a medieval candle workshop, where devoted craftspeople create the sacred lights that illuminate churches and homes, bringing comfort and hope through long winter nights. In the holy city of Canterbury in 1367, Master Aldric the candlemaker served both cathedral and community, creating pure beeswax candles for religious ceremonies and simple tallow lights for village families, his workshop filling narrow street with honey-sweet scents. His nephew Oswald, recently arrived from a distant village, marveled at the skill required for candle making, learning to judge when wax reached perfect temperature and how many times to dip each wick for candles that would burn steadily through the night. Sister Beatrice from the nearby convent collaborated with Aldric's workshop, providing the finest beeswax from convent hives, while teaching young apprentices about the spiritual significance of light conquering darkness in troubled times. Their workshop hummed with quiet activity as workers dipped wicks repeatedly in warm wax, building layers that would create steady flames for reading prayers by candlelight, illuminating manuscript pages, and bringing comfort to families gathered around dinner tables in peaceful cottages. Master Aldric had inherited this sacred craft from his father and grandfather, men who understood that candle making served in both practical and spiritual purposes, providing light for daily work and flames for religious devotion. The workshop occupied 3 connected buildings near Canterbury Cathedral, where the greatest pilgrimage site in England drew thousands of faithful visitors seeking spiritual blessing and miraculous healing. The first building housed the wax preparation chambers, where different types of wax were purified and prepared for transformation into candles that would serve various purposes in religious and domestic life. Oswald had learned to distinguish between different grades of beeswax, understanding that the purest wax created candles with sweetest fragrance and cleanest burning flames, suitable for the most sacred ceremonies. Each piece of wax carries the blessing of the bees, Aldric explained to his nephew as they examined golden honeycombs. These little creatures work in harmony with God's creation. We must honor their labor by creating lights worthy of their gift. Sister Beatrice possessed deep knowledge of beekeeping and wax purification, understanding the spiritual symbolism that connected industrious bees to human communities working together for common good. The second building contained the wick preparation workshop, where cotton and linen fibers were twisted into wicks of different thicknesses, designed for candles of various sizes and purposes. Young apprentice Edmund, whose family had sent him from rural Kent, learned to twist fibers into perfectly uniform wicks, understanding that wick quality determined how evenly candles would burn. The wick is the candle's heart, Aldric taught Edmund as they worked together, Preparing wicks for cathedral candles. A poor wick will cause the finest wax to sputter and smoke, but a perfect wick allows wax to fulfill its purpose. Sister Beatrice provided linen fibers from flax grown in convent gardens, ensuring that even the humblest components of their candles carried spiritual blessing from sacred ground. The third building housed the main candle-making workshop, where master craftsmen used various techniques to create different types of candles for churches, monasteries, and private homes throughout the Canterbury region. Master Harold the Dipper had worked with Aldric for 12 years, perfecting the art of dipped candles that required precise timing and steady hands to build even layers of wax. Oswald learned the rhythm of candle dipping, understanding how temperature and timing affected wax adhesion and final candle quality. Watching Harold's experienced movements with careful attention, the workshop also created molded candles using carved wooden forms that produced perfectly shaped cylinders for special ceremonious purposes where uniformity mattered more than handcrafted character. These molded candles required different skills, from dipped varieties involving careful temperature control and precise timing to ensure smooth surfaces without air bubbles or imperfections. Each morning began with prayers as Aldric's workshop family asked God's blessing on their work, understanding that they served as instruments for bringing light into the world's darkness. Edmund led morning prayers, his young voice rising in ancient hymns that prepared everyone's hearts for the sacred work ahead, creating lights that would serve both practical and spiritual needs. After prayers came careful ritual of examining yesterday's work, checking completed candles for flaws, testing wick placement and wax quality, ensuring that every light met their exacting standards. Oswald had developed skill at detecting imperfections in finished candles, understanding that poor quality lights could ruin important ceremonies or leave families in darkness. The workshop created different types of candles for various purposes, each requiring specific materials and techniques, from simple tallow dips to elaborate ceremonial tapers. Beeswax candles represented the highest quality, reserved for cathedral ceremonies and wealthy households, burning with pure flames and sweet fragrance that enhanced spiritual devotion. Aldric had perfected techniques for creating beeswax candles with exceptional burning properties, lasting hours longer than ordinary candles while maintaining steady flames. Tallow candles served common households, made from animal fat that burned less cleanly but provided affordable light for working families during long winter evenings. Sister Beatrice taught the workshop about mixed wax candles, combining beeswax and tallow in proportions that balanced quality and affordability for middle-class customers. The workshop specialized in ceremonial candles for religious festivals, creating enormous Easter candles that burned throughout Lent and smaller votive lights for personal prayers. Easter candle creation required months of preparation as craftsmen built up massive columns of pure beeswax decorated with religious symbols pressed into the warm surface. These ceremonial candles stood taller than a grown man, requiring special stands and careful placement in cathedral sanctuaries where they symbolized Christ's resurrection light. Christmas candles followed different traditions, with red and green coloring added through natural dyes that created festive lights for celebrating Christ's birth. Wedding candles represented new beginnings, created in pure white beeswax, often decorated with flowers or family symbols that blessed marriage ceremonies. Funeral candles provided comfort during times of mourning, burning beside the deceased, and accompanying burial processions as symbols of eternal life. The workshop maintained detailed records of every candle type, noting materials used, burning times achieved, and customer preferences, creating a library of technical knowledge. Sister Beatrice kept spiritual records, documenting which candles served which religious purposes, understanding symbolic meanings that connected different lights to various aspects of faith. The workshop developed innovations in candle construction, experimenting with different wick materials and wax compositions to create lights with retrieved burning characteristics. Aldric invented a new dipping technique that produced candles with reinforced bases, preventing the melting problems that sometimes occurred with traditional construction methods. Oswald's steady hands helped perfect this innovation, learning to apply extra wax layers in strategic locations that strengthened candles without affecting their appearance. The workshop attracted customers from throughout southern England, seeking candles with exceptional quality and spiritual blessing that Aldric's reputation guaranteed. Canterbury Cathedral commissioned special altar candles for Thomas Becket's shrine, wanting lights worthy of England's most important pilgrimage destination. These shrine candles required Aldric's finest craftsmanship, creating lights that would burn continuously for weeks while maintaining steady flames before the saint's sacred relics. Pilgrims purchased smaller votive candles to light before various shrines, carrying their prayers upward on flames that connected earthly devotion to heavenly intercession. The workshop created pilgrim candles, portable sizes that travelers could carry on their spiritual journeys, lighting them at holy sites. Throughout their pilgrimage routes, monastery commissions required candles for the 8 daily prayer hours that structured monastic life, each service needing lights with specific burning durations to last through complete ceremonies. Edmund learned to calculate burning times precisely, creating candles that would provide exactly the right amount of light for different prayer services without waste or shortage. Private households ordered candles for family devotions, wanting lights that enhanced domestic prayer life and provided comfort during evening gatherings. The workshop developed special techniques for coloring candles using natural dyes that created beautiful hues without affecting burning quality or flame characteristics. Sister Beatrice provided plant-based dyes from convent gardens, creating reds from madder root, blues from woad plants, and yellows from saffron flowers. These colored candles served decorative and symbolic purposes, with different hues representing various spiritual meanings in church calendar celebrations. Purple candles marked Advent and Lenten seasons. Red candles celebrated martyrs and Pentecost. White candles honored purity and resurrection themes. The Dusser workshop maintained relationships with beekeepers throughout Kent, ensuring steady supplies of high-quality wax, even during poor honey seasons when wax became scarce. Master Harold traveled regularly to rural apiaries, inspecting wax quality and negotiating prices that kept the workshop competitive in regional markets. The workshop also processed beeswax from church property, where cathedral beehives produced wax specifically intended for sacred candle making. This cathedral wax carried special spiritual significance, having been produced on consecrated ground by bees that lived within the cathedral's spiritual influence. International pilgrims brought exotic waxes from distant lands, asking Aldric to create candles from materials that connected their home regions to Canterbury's sacred sites. These exotic commissions required experimentation with unfamiliar waxes, understanding their unique properties, and adapting traditional techniques to work with foreign materials. Oswald developed expertise in working with various wax types, learning how different materials affected burning characteristics and required modified construction approaches. The workshop began creating specialty candles, export to continental Europe, where English candle-making techniques had gained reputation for exceptional quality. These export candles required special packaging methods to survive long journeys while maintaining their quality and arriving ready for immediate use. Edmund designed protective containers that shielded candles during transport, using materials that prevented damage from temperature changes and rough handling. The workshop's reputation spread through pilgrim networks, as satisfied customers recommended Canterbury candles to friends and family in distant regions. Letters arrived regularly from foreign churches requesting specific types of candles for important ceremonies, trusting Aldric's workshop to provide lights worthy of sacred occasions. The workshop expanded to meet demand, adding new work areas and hiring additional craftsmen while maintaining the quality standards that established their reputation. Despite growing success, Aldric insisted on personal involvement in every major commission, ensuring that quality never suffered for the sake of increased production. Evening hours in the workshop were devoted to planning and experimentation, as the candle-making family discussed new techniques and refined their traditional methods. Sister Beatrice spent evenings researching the spiritual symbolism of different candle types, deepening everyone's understanding of their craft's sacred dimensions. Oswald used evening time to practice advanced techniques under Aldric's guidance, gradually mastering skills that would make him a master candle maker himself. Edmund worked evening experimental projects, testing new wick materials and wax combinations that might improve candle quality or reduce production costs. The workshop became a center for candle-making innovation, where traditional techniques merged with new discoveries, creating lights that surpassed anything made in previous generations. Aldric wrote detailed manuals describing candle-making techniques, ensuring that technical knowledge would survive even if disaster struck the workshop or its craftsmen. These manuals covered every aspect of the craft, from wax preparation through wick construction to final quality testing, preserving centuries of accumulated wisdom. The workshop maintained connections with candle makers in other regions, sharing knowledge and techniques that advanced the entire craft throughout medieval England. Master Aldric's innovations in candle construction were adopted by workshops in London and York, spreading Canterbury techniques throughout English candle-making centres. The workshop's influence extended beyond candle making, inspiring innovations in lamp design and oil-burning techniques that prove domestic lighting. These broader influences helped establish Canterbury as a center for lighting innovation, attracting craftsmen from other regions who wanted to learn advanced techniques. The workshop developed education programs for aspiring candle makers, teaching both technical skills and spiritual understanding necessary for this sacred craft. Young apprentices came from across England, seeking training in Canterbury methods, bringing fresh ideas that enriched the workshop's traditional approaches. Edmund began teaching newer apprentices, passing on skills Aldric had taught him, understanding that knowledge must flow from generation to generation to preserve this important craft. The workshop's educational mission extended to noble households, where Aldric taught proper candle care, helping customers maximize the value of their lighting investments. These educational activities raise awareness of quality differences between various candle types, creating more discerning customers who appreciated fine craftsmanship. The workshop developed specialized tools for candle making, creating implements that improved efficiency and quality while reducing physical strain on craftsmen. These tool innovations were shared with other workshops, advancing candle-making technology throughout the medieval lighting industry. As winter approached Canterbury, the workshop prepared for its busiest season, when long nights increased demand for quality lighting in homes and churches. The Christmas season brought special challenges and opportunities, as customers wanted festive candles that enhanced holiday celebrations with beautiful light and fragrance. Winter also meant increased cathedral services, requiring enormous quantities of high-quality candles for the extended religious observances that marked the Christian year's darkest season. The workshop stockpiled materials during autumn months, ensuring adequate supplies for winter production when transportation became difficult and materials scarce. Despite seasonal challenges, the workshop maintained consistent quality, understanding that customers depended on reliable lighting for essential daily activities. Snow fell gently on workshop roofs, while candle makers maintained their patient work, creating lights that would guide people through darkness towards spring's returning brightness. In the peaceful evening hours, Aldric's family gathered around their own handmade candles, planning future projects and sharing stories of lights they had created. Edmund would describe the unique characteristics of different candle types, helping his workshop family understand how their work brought comfort and leaves blessing to countless lives. The medieval world of candle making continues to inspire us today, reminding us that simple crafts can serve profound purposes, bringing light and hope into places of darkness. Let these images of sacred craftsmanship carry you toward peaceful rest, imagining the gentle glow of handmade candles illuminating quiet churches and family homes across the medieval countryside. Sleep peacefully now, like craftsmen in workshops ago, knowing that patient work and devoted service can create lights that guide others through their darkest hours. The medieval Bell Foundry, masters of sacred sound sleep journey. Picture yourself in the smoky warmth of a medieval bell foundry, where master craftsmen transform molten bronze into sacred bells, their deep voices calling faithful to prayer across peaceful countryside. In the year 1421, in the bustling town of Reims in northern France, Master Guillaume, the Bell founder, woke each dawn to tend his furnaces, preparing the sacred bronze that would become church bells, heard for generations across rolling farmland and village squares. His son Etienne, now 16 years old, had spent 3 years learning the mysterious art of bell making, understanding how different metals blended together created sounds that could reach heaven itself, carrying prayers upward on wings of bronze music. Young Celeste, Guillaume's talented daughter, possessed the rare gift of perfect hearing, able to detect the slightest flaw in a bell's voice, ensuring every bell that left their foundry sang with pure and holy sound. Their foundry workshop glowed with forge fires, where copper and tin melted together, becoming bronze that would outlast kingdoms, while apprentices learned the ancient secrets of creating instruments that connected earth to heaven through the power of sacred sound. Master Guillaume had inherited this sacred craft from his father, who learned from his father before him, a family tradition stretching back 5 generations, each master adding his own knowledge to the ancient art of bell founding that served both God and community. The workshop occupied 3 connected buildings near the Cathedral of Notre Dame de Reims, where kings of France were crowned, and where the bells Guillaume created would call faithful witness history, being made in sacred ceremonies. In the first building, apprentices prepared the materials, carefully measuring copper from Spanish mines and tin from English Cornwall, calculating the precise mixture that would create bronze with perfect resonance for bells that would sing for centuries. Etienne had learned to recognize good copper by its reddish gleam and weight, understanding that inferior metal would create bells with harsh or muddy tones, while finest copper sang clearly even before it entered the furnace flames. Each piece of metal tells a story, Guillaume explained to his son as they examined a shipment of tin. This tin traveled from distant mines, through many hands and many dangers, to reach our workshop. We must honor its journey by creating something worthy of its sacrifice. Celeste possessed an extraordinary ability to hear the music hidden within raw metals, running her fingers along copper ingots, listening to the secret songs that would emerge when bronze was born from the marriage of different elements. The second building housed the great furnaces, massive stone structures that burned day and night, maintaining temperatures hot enough to melt bronze into flowing liquid gold that could be shaped into sacred instruments of divine communication. Young apprentice Lucien, whose family sent him from distant Normandy, learned to tend these furnaces, feeding them charcoal at precise intervals, reading the color of flames, to judge when bronze reached perfect flowing temperature. The fire is our partner, Guillaume taught Lucien as they worked together at the furnace mouth. Too hot and the bronze becomes angry, too cool and it won't flow properly. We must listen to what the fire tells us and respond with patience, respect. Celeste could hear when bronze reached readiness, detecting subtle changes in the furnace's roar that told her when molten metal had achieved perfect consistency for pouring into the waiting molds that would give bells their sacred shapes. The third building contained the molding workshop, where master craftsmen created the forms that would shape flowing bronze into bells of different sizes, each designed for specific purposes in the religious life of communities. Master Henri, the mold maker, had worked with Guillaume for 20 years, understanding exactly how each bell size required different mold construction to create the proper thickness that would produce pure and lasting tones. Etienne learned to pack clay around bell patterns, creating negative spaces that would receive molten bronze and shape it into instruments capable of calling people to prayer. across many miles of countryside. The largest molds were for cathedral bells, massive instruments weighing several tons, whose deep voices could be heard from village to village, announcing important events and calling entire regions to celebration or mourning. Smaller molds created bells for parish churches with higher, clearer voices that rang out across individual villages, marking the hours of prayer, calling farmers from fields and craftsmen from workshops to gather in community worship. The tiniest molds shaped bells for private chapels with sweet, delicate voices that blessed intimate family prayers, christening ceremonies for newborn babies, and wedding celebrations where love promised to last forever. Each morning began with prayers. Guillaume's workshop family asked God's blessing on their work, understanding that they served as instruments for creating instruments that would serve divine purposes. Celeste led these morning prayers, her clear voice rising in ancient hymns that prepared everyone's hearts for the sacred work ahead, creating bells that would carry prayers from earth toward heaven's throne. After prayers came the careful ritual of examining yesterday's work, checking molds for cracked or imperfections, testing bronze samples for proper consistency, ensuring that every step met the highest standards of craftsmanship. Lucien learned to read bronze like a book, understanding how cooled samples revealed the quality of molten metal, still waiting in furnished chambers, determining whether today's pour would create perfect bells or require more preparation. When all preparations were complete and bronze reached perfect temperature, the workshop gathered for the sacred moment of pouring molten metal into waiting molds that would give birth to new voices. Guillaume supervised every pour personally, directing the flow of liquid bronze with movements learned through decades of creating sacred instruments, ensuring even distribution that would produce balanced and beautiful tones. Etienne operated the tilting mechanism that controlled bronze flow, responding to his father's hand signals with precision that came from years of working together in perfect harmony and trust. Celeste listened intently during each pour, hearing the subtle sounds that indicated proper filling, detecting any irregularities that might affect the bell's future voice, ensuring perfection in every casting. The cooling process required patience as newly formed bells gradually solidified in their molds, bronze slowly changing from liquid fire to solid metal, while workshop families waited and prayed. During cooling time, apprentices maintained furnace fires, prepared materials for future castings, and practiced the countless skills required for bell founding under Guillaume's watchful guidance. Lucien learned to calculate bronze quantities, measuring precisely how much molten metal each mold would require, understanding that waste meant expensive materials lost and delayed completion of important commissions. Henry taught mold construction, showing apprentices how clay and sand, combined in perfect proportions, created forms strong enough to contain flowing bronze while producing smooth bell surfaces. When cooling was complete, came the exciting moment of breaking open molds, revealing newly born bells, waiting for their first breath and their first song. Celeste examined each new bell, running her hands over bronze surfaces, feeling for imperfections might affect sound quality, while her perfect hearing detected the musical potential sleeping within silent metal. The finishing process required weeks of careful work as craftsmen filed and polished each bell's surface, removing any roughness that might interfere with pure sound production. Etienne learned the art of bell tuning, carefully removing tiny amounts of bronze from specific locations to adjust pitch and timbre until each bell sang in perfect harmony with its intended purpose. Master Guillaume possessed the rare skill of hearing a bell's final voice while it still hung silent, understanding exactly where to remove small amounts of metal to achieve perfect musical pitch. The workshop maintained careful records of every bell they created, noting its size and weight, its intended destination, and the musical note it was designed to sing. Celeste kept detailed journals describing each bell's unique characteristics, creating a library of knowledge that would help future bell founders understand the subtle relationships between metal composition and musical quality. When bells were complete and properly tuned, came the joyful ceremony of first ringing as each new voice sang its inaugural song, blessing the workshop with sacred music. The entire community gathered for these first ringing ceremonies, neighbors and clergy alike, celebrating the birth of new sacred voices that would serve their spiritual needs. Guillaume's bells were commissioned by churches across northern France, each community saving for years to afford instruments that would call their faithful to prayer and celebration. The Cathedral of Chartres ordered a set of 5 bells designed to ring in harmony, creating complex musical patterns that would enhance their famous liturgies and inspire deeper devotion. Etienne traveled with his father to install these cathedral bells, learning how proper hanging affected sound quality and understanding the carpentry skills required for bell tower construction. Parish churches in rural villages commissioned smaller bells with sweet, clear voices that could reach scattered farms, calling hard-working families to Sunday worship and feast day celebrations. Celeste developed special relationships with village priests, helping them choose bells with voices that matched their community's spiritual character and acoustic requirements. Wealthy merchants sometimes ordered private chapel bells for their family compounds, wanting instruments that reflect both their prosperity and their devotion to God. The workshop also created smaller bells for monastery towers, where religious communities needed instruments to mark the 8 daily prayer hours that structured monastic life. Each commission required months of work, from initial design consultations through final installation, as Guillaume's family collaborated with clients to create perfect instruments. Lucien learned to calculate costs, considering metal prices, labor requirements, and transportation expenses, ensuring that commissions remained profitable while serving spiritual needs. Indri maintained relationships with metal suppliers, ensuring steady access to high-quality copper and tin, even during political troubles that sometimes disrupted trade routes. The workshop developed innovations in bell design and construction, experimenting with different metal proportions to create bells with unusual tonal qualities that enhanced specific types of religious music. Guillaume invented a new molding technique that produced bells with thinner walls but stronger construction, creating instruments that sang more clearly while using less precious bronze. Celeste's exceptional hearing helped identify optimal bronze compositions for different musical purposes, leading to bells with unprecedented clarity and sustaining power. As seasons passed, the workshop established a reputation throughout France and beyond for creating bells whose voices carried special blessing and extraordinary beauty. Young apprentices came from distant regions, seeking to learn Guillaume's techniques, bringing new ideas and perspectives that enriched the workshop's traditional methods and approaches. Etienne began teaching newer apprentices, passing on skills his father had taught him, understanding that knowledge must flow from generation to generation. To preserve this sacred craft, the workshop became a center for innovation in bell founding, where traditional techniques merged with new discoveries, creating instruments that surpassed anything created in previous generations. Master Guillaume wrote detailed manuals describing Bell founding techniques, ensuring that hard-won knowledge would survive even if disaster struck the workshop or its craftsmen. Celeste documented the musical properties of hundreds of bells, creating reference materials that help future founders understand relationships between construction methods and sound quality. The workshop maintained connections with Bell founders in other regions, sharing knowledge and techniques that advanced the entire craft across medieval Europe. International commissions began arriving from England and the German states, seeking bells with the distinctive clarity and power that characterized Guillaume's work. Each completed project enhanced the workshop's growing reputation, leading to more complex commissions and opportunities to create increasingly magnificent instruments. The King of France himself commissioned a special bell for the royal chapel at Vincennes, wanting an instrument worthy of royal celebrations and ceremonies. This royal commission required Guillaume's finest craftsmanship, creating a bell whose voice would represent the glory of French kingship and divine blessing, royal authority. Etienne and Celeste collaborated on the royal bell's design, combining their inherited skills with innovative techniques to create an instrument of unprecedented magnificence. The completed royal bell possessed a voice so pure and powerful that its first ringing moved listeners to tears of joy and spiritual wonder. Success with royal commissions led to requests from other kingdoms as news of Guillaume's exceptional bells spread throughout medieval Europe via merchants and pilgrims. The workshop expanded to meet demand, adding new furnaces and work areas while maintaining the high standards that made Guillaume's bells legendary throughout Christendom. Despite growing success, Guillaume insisted on personal involvement in every bell's creation, ensuring that quality never suffered for the sake of increased production. Evening hours in the workshop were devoted to planning and design, as the founding family discussed upcoming projects and refined their techniques for future challenges. Celeste spent evenings composing detailed descriptions of each bell's musical character, creating a library of knowledge about sacred sound that would benefit future generations. Lucienne used evening time to practice advanced techniques under Etienne's guidance, gradually mastering skills that would make him master founder in his own right. Imri worked evenings on experimental molds, testing new construction methods that might improve bell quality or reduce production time and material costs. The workshop became a school for aspiring bell founders from across Europe, where traditional craft knowledge merged with innovative thinking to advance the sacred art. Guillaume's reputation attracted scholars interested in the mathematics of musical harmony, leading to collaborations that improved understanding of sound and resonance. These scholarly connections helped refine bell tuning techniques, applying mathematical principles to achieve more precise musical relationships. Bells of different sizes. The workshop's influence spread through apprentices who established their own foundries, carrying Guillaume's methods to distant regions and new communities. As winter settled over Reims, the workshop continued its sacred work, creating instruments that would carry prayers and celebrations through countless seasons of human joy and sorrow. Snow fell gently on workshop roofs, while furnace fires maintained their steady heat, and craftsmen worked with patient dedication on bells that would outlast kingdoms. In the peaceful evening hours, Guillaume's family gathered around their hearth, planning future projects and sharing stories of bells they had created. Celeste would describe the unique voice of each completed bell, helping her family understand how their work connected communities to sacred mysteries. The medieval world of Bell Foundry continues to inspire us, reminding us that skilled hands and devoted hearts can create beauty that transcends time itself. Let these images of sacred craftsmanship carry you toward peaceful rest, imagining gentle sounds of bronze bells calling faithful communities to prayer across quiet countryside. Sleep peacefully now, like craftsmen in workshops long ago, knowing that tomorrow brings new opportunities to create something beautiful that will serve others with lasting blessing.